All right, we're all filing in. We'll give it another second. Right. Well, thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everyone. We're just about to hit critical mass. I know Tamaya is just joining us now. All right. Well, I will let people kind of keep petering in, but I will quickly get us started because I know we have limited time, and I want to thank everyone for taking an hour out of your day to celebrate ranked choice voting. RCV Day is tomorrow, but as we've mentioned, we're kicking it off a day early just to really get that momentum going. So with that said, we're going to start quickly with just a little slide deck. And first, I will also introduce myself, as this may be the first time some people have met me. All right. Can everyone see my screen okay? All right, perfect. Well, good morning and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us, as I said, to celebrate our Ranked Choice Voting Day with Represent Women. I'm Alana Persson. I'm the communications lead at Represent Women, and I'll be moderating today's discussion and conversation with our fabulous panelists that we have as the feature for our day. I'm just really thrilled to be joined by these guests. We have Perry Radford, who is somewhere, if you want to wave your hand, from New Mexico Voters First. I've got Elise Orlick in front of me, at least on my screen, from FairVote Washington. Tamara Allen from UpVote Virginia. We've got our very own Tamaya Dennard of RepresentWomen, and Anna Kellar as well from Rank the Vote. So a fabulous group of women and gender diverse leaders. And so just very excited for you to hear from them today and learn from their expertise. And we'd also love for the people in attendance, if you want to take an opportunity to introduce yourselves, feel free to put your name, where you're from, any information you'd like to share in the chat. We'd love to get to know you and for you all to get to know each other. So with that, let's get our little kickoff slide deck started just to kind of frame the day, and then we'll take it over to our panel for the rest of our webinar. So. All right, for those who heard the song at the very beginning, thank you, Michelle, for queuing that up. Greatly appreciate it. We decided to do an RCV challenge this year. So we put out 5 different songs that we thought really embodied women's representation, women's power, and we did not choose the song ourselves. We had our community choose it via social media and our emails using a ranked choice voting ballot. And so for those of you who weren't familiar with the tune that was playing, the winning song from our Voices of Women's Power election that we hosted this week was, little drum roll, Run the World Girls. So as you can see from the result, ranked choice voting was a game changer in this election. As someone who watched the results pour in, it really did flip-flop between Run the World Girls and I Am Woman for a little while until Run the World really had a clear breakaway. So thank you to everyone who participated in this. We love having the opportunity to give our community a chance to try ranked choice voting, as trying this process really shows how simple it is and how fun RCV can be. And it also shows when people have real choice, the outcomes reflect the collective will and not just the loudest voice. So we thank you for anyone who participated in setting our webinar off to a really great start with Run the World Girls. So we're going to keep this brief, but first I just wanted to start with why ranked choice voting and why now? And from where I'm sitting, why women? So, next slide. So across the country, people are feeling disconnected from our political system. Voters feel boxed in, candidates feel locked out, and too often our elections reward division instead of collaboration. And from a women's perspective, these dynamics are especially costly because systems that narrow choice, entrench incumbency, tend to shut women out first. Ranked choice voting offers a structural response to that frustration by expanding choice, rewarding coalition building, and creating conditions where voices, including women's voices, can compete and be heard. So at Represent Women, as you can see from the slide, we start with a clear diagnosis, and that is right now women's political representation in the United States has stalled. Despite decades of investment, recruitment, and training, progress remains flat and inconsistent, and the United States continues to lag behind global peers. The core issue isn't ambition, it's the structure of our elections. Winner take all and entrenched incumbency systematically block women, particularly women of color, women of Republican women from running, winning, and advancing. The less than deal, these aren't grades. Ideal grades, the numbers tell the story. So right now, overall, as we can see, the story is not great for women. And this next slide gets a bit more specific in what the story tells us, and unfortunately, a lot more sobering. So even after historic elections in 2018 and in 2020, women still make up barely a quarter to a third of most elected bodies in this country. And when we look closer, we see that that progress has been deeply uneven. On this side, where we talk about the marginalized groups, we see that women of color, Republican women, young women, women from the South and the Plains states, women with disabilities, LGBTQIA+ women, first-generation Americans, they all are especially marginalized and do not have the best outcomes. And so these aren't separate problems. They're signals of how our current systems narrow opportunity instead of expanding it. And this is why we focus on the systems and not just the symptoms. So here is the good news and why we're here today. RCV as the solution. Across the country, we are seeing clear evidence that when election systems change, women's representation changes with them. So ranked choice voting offers more than hope. Although hope is good and needed, it offers a viable, tested path forward. So where is RCV used or enacted in the United States? Most people may know, others might not, but this map clearly shows the distinctions of where RCV is used, and it's broadly used in various states across the country. And it's not just used for state and federal elections, it's also used for military and overseas voting in many places, local elections, party elections. So really kind of take a minute and look at this map and see where it is. Is your state one of these that is highlighted in one of the colors? And if not, could your state be highlighted next? And how can maybe you play a part in that? So when we dive into the data around ranked choice voting and women's representation, the outcomes are striking. So as this little pie chart at the bottom shows, women make up 52% of city council seats in RCV cities. That's nearly double the national norm. Women also make up almost 40% of mayors elected in RCV cities. That kind of shift does not happen by chance, and it tells us something important about how the system is working. Diving in a little deeper, we're looking at, as of late November 2024, we're still working on putting together our new slide with our 2025 data. But as you can see, dozens of cities have used ranked choice voting to elect their councils, and across those seats, women hold the majority. And what's notable is that this pattern shows up across the different places and is not just one success story. And that matters. So how does ranked choice voting help women get elected? We are Represent Women after all, so it's important to go into the specific detail. So first, it removes the spoiler dynamic, meaning women can run without being told to wait their turn or risk splitting the vote. And that alone opens the field to more women candidates. And it makes it safer for multiple women to run at the same time without being pitted against each other. Second, RCV incentivizes more civil campaigns, coalition-driven campaigns, and issue-focused campaigns, which I'm really excited for our panelists to talk a little bit more about. So women candidates are more likely to run collaborative campaigns, and they won't be having to be put in situations where they would have to do zero-sum competition or promote more negativity in order to get a win. And when candidates need broad support to win, it changes how campaigns are run and who can succeed. And finally, ranked choice voting lowers the cost of running, which is really important. and it also produces winners with clear majority support. And that combination reduces barriers to entry and gives women, and especially women of color, greater opportunity when in office. So I'm not just saying that these things are true in the hypothetical. We are going to spotlight a couple actual case studies very briefly just to showcase how ranked choice voting has produced transformative results for women in specific cities across the country. So right here we see New York City. New York City is one of the most powerful modern examples of the transformative impact ranked choice voting has in action. Prior to the use of ranked choice voting, women only made up 13 seats of the 51 seat council. Today, women hold 32 of 51 seats on the New York City Council, which is a supermajority. And that council is also significantly more diverse than in previous decades. In fact, women of color now hold a majority of council seats, marking a historic shift in who holds political power in that city. And while I don't want to spend too much time on New York City, I did want to share this one additional data point because the long view here is especially telling. When you step back and look at women's representation on the New York City Council over time, you don't just see gradual process, you see a clear shift after ranked choice voting was implemented. And that inflection point matters because it shows the opportunity was already there. Women were ready to run. They were being recruited, trained, and supported. What wasn't working was the system. When the rules changed, all of that existing work translated into wins and into women holding real power. So if you're interested in digging a little deeper into New York, I'd really recommend checking out our New York City report that we put out, which I believe my colleague Alyssa will drop in the chat momentarily. All right, jumping to another key spotlight. And this is one of our latest reports that our fabulous research team, including Courtney, who's on our call, put out last year. So Portland offers another important example, and it provides a longer arc for the context. As you can see again here, women's representation stalled for quite some time. Yet again, after implementation of proportional ranked choice voting, Portland City Council reached gender balance for the first time with significant gains for women. So looking here, we can see that pre-reform, we had a pretty big imbalance. And then again, in 2025, after these reforms, after the implementation of ranked choice voting, as well as they did expand their city council seats, we then saw gender balance, equal men, equal women on their council. And the very exciting news is that of the 6 women elected, 4 are women of color. And this is what fair representation looks like when systems are designed to reflect real communities. And it's also important to note that one of the women elected is a renter, which matters because winner-take-all elections and single-member districts tend to privilege homeowners. But when you move to proportional systems and implement ranked choice voting, people who are too often excluded from political power, including renters, which I will say I am, they're more likely to be represented, which really is a great thing. All right, so why does this matter? It matters because gender balanced leadership strengthens democracy in ways that people can feel, from how decisions are made to whose needs are prioritized to how much communities have in their institutions. So representation is not symbolic, it's functional, and it shapes the quality of governance for everyone, and for especially women. I will add there was a really great report that came out in New York about the impact of their majority, supermajority women's city council that really shows what their outcomes produced. So I will also include that in as a resource if you want to check out some latest. And we have our own impact report that we put out, which are really great resources as well to see why it matters in action. All right, so the last thing I'll say is just there are a lot of people from the movement here, some people who may be new to the movement. And so I just wanted to frame it as to why this matters for us right now. Why is ranked choice voting day a big deal? Why are we such champions of ranked choice voting? And the answer for us, at least, to represent women is this. For the movement to succeed, we need to connect reforms like ranked choice voting to people's lived experiences, and we need people to see how ranked choice voting actually changes what's possible for them, particularly women who've been locked out of the current system. And Represent Women's role is to make that connection clear by showing through our research and history how when women are engaged and represented, reform movements grow stronger and go further. And that's why the voices you're about to hear today matter so much as women from this movement that I am so proud to be part of. So, and with that, I am thrilled to introduce and to turn us to our panel. I promised I would keep the remarks quick and snappy at the top so we can really dive into the core of why we're here, which is to hear from these fabulous individuals. So today we've got, as I said, Elise Orlick from FairVote Washington, Tamara Allen from UpVote Virginia, Perry Radford from New Mexico Voters First, our very own Tamaya from RepresentWomen, and Anna Kellar from Rank the Vote. So I will then now stop sharing my screen and let these fabulous leaders kind of take it over. So we've got them spotlighted. All right. Well, first, I'll start with Elise. If you would like to just kind of introduce yourself to the group here, the organization you're with, your position, and then any other key information on what your organization might currently be working on related to ranked choice voting, any exciting updates or priorities in your state or community in 2026. I'll let you kind of take it from there, setting the stage.
Yeah, thanks so much, Alana, for having me today, and Rep Women as a whole for pulling together this great panel. So I'm Elise. I'm the executive director of FairVote Washington, and I'm based in Seattle, which will begin using ranked choice voting in 2027. So we can finally say that is happening next year. FairVote Washington has been around for about 8 years, and in that time, we won our campaign in Seattle to bring ranked choice voting here. And we've made a lot of progress to make that option available for other local jurisdictions across the state. So this year, we are working on a bill called the Protect Our Voices Act, which would provide that local option while also setting some standards for implementation of both single winner and multi-winner ranked choice voting for cities and counties in Washington. And we've tweaked this bill, which we've run in previous years, because this year we're also facing a serious threat to representation from the US Supreme Court. In a case called Louisiana v. Calais, the court could strip the remaining protection of the Federal Voting Rights Act to take away the ability to draw districts to ensure representation for people of color, which would be a tragedy and a disaster. And in states like Washington, where we have a state voting rights act, we need to act to ensure we still have a method of ensuring representation. And our bill has been tweaked to address this urgency. It would go into effect immediately and provide that local option for 6 years, so that states can, in particular, take advantage of proportional ranked choice voting and ensure that they can provide, that local jurisdictions can take advantage of that option to provide representation for all of their communities. We're really excited about this bill. We had a hearing in our policy committee on the second day of session this year. We had twice as many people sign in as last year to show their opinion on the bill to the committee. And we are scheduled for a vote in that committee tomorrow, which is great timing. The committee members did not know that it was RCV Day when they scheduled it. And that is also our lobby day. We're working with a coalition of organizations this year to bring over 200 people to Olympia to talk about the urgency of ranked choice voting, proportional representation, and other democracy reforms. So those are some of our big priorities right now. And in the meantime, we've also been growing our local chapters across the state so that we can be ready when we have the opportunity to pursue more local campaigns.
Thank you so much, Elise. And that's fabulous. I can't believe that they randomly picked RCV Day. It seems like a sign from the universe that they decided to put that forth. Let us know in the chat as well if there's any way that the people listening in can help support any of these efforts. I know that people are eager to get involved across the country. And so if there's any direct action people can take to support what you're working on, I'm sure people would welcome that. All right. Next, Tamara Allen from UpVote Virginia. I will give you the floor also to kind of share who you are, your organization you're with, what you're working on, and I'll let you take it from there.
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Tamara Allen. I am the programs director here at UpVote Virginia. So I get to do all the fun grassroots, hands-on with the folks on the ground, but also doing, the activities and events that elevate voter education. So fun fact, I'm in the General Assembly building as we speak, trying to work our bill to make sure towns are able to use ranked choice voting and hopefully having mayors and school boards that ability to. So right now, Virginia, you can only use it for city council and county board of supervisors. It is an optional use bill, so that's really good because we are in Virginia. And so today we are having our RCV Day celebration this evening. So some of our previous, I'm sorry if it gets a little noisy, but some of our previous co-patrons and chief patrons of our bill are going to be in attendance, their staff, and some of the more engaged volunteers throughout the Commonwealth will be coming up. We did also have our Democracy Day, Lobby Day on the 20th. So that was really fun. We partnered with organizations like Big Money Out and the League of Women Voters to talk about ranked choice voting, campaign finance laws, redistricting, all of the things to make sure that Virginia is still leading the way in fair representation. So that's what we're prioritizing right now. I'm really excited to be here. I've been at UpVote for about 2 years now, and UpVote's been here since 2022. So I feel like I'm growing with the organization, and I'm really excited to see where proportional representation goes. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm very excited to see where it goes as well. And you're doing fabulous work in Virginia. So I'm very excited that you're part of that team. All right, I will jump to Perry Radford. I've had the privilege of working on and off with Perry for a couple of years, and she is a wealth of knowledge and is doing fabulous work in New Mexico. So I will leave you to kind of introduce yourself, and I'll give you the floor.
Hey everybody, this is Perry. I'm here in Albuquerque, New Mexico with NM Voters First. Right now, our legislative session just started, and we're actually working on a pretty important initiative to support women's representation, which is we are the last unsalaried legislature in the country. That's right, our legislatures get a per diem, and that is it. And we do not find that acceptable. We have an amazing group of women who are sponsoring this bill who are incredible. And, we've, I think, made a lot of news. We actually have a majority women legislature, and they are getting stuff done. You may have heard about universal child care being enacted New Mexico last fall. This is what happens when you have women representing us, right? Our legislative session is only 30 days, so in just a few weeks, we'll be turning things around, and we'll be focusing on our ranked choice voting campaign here in Albuquerque. So our second and third biggest cities, Las Cruces and Santa Fe, have ranked choice voting already, which is why Las Cruces has 100% women on its council as of recently. Santa Fe is at 75%, but Albuquerque is at 2/3. It's clear New Mexicans are ready and want women in power. And so we're looking at advancing ranked choice voting in the city of Albuquerque, possibly at the county level. The county we're in, Bernalillo County, is the most populous county in the state. And we're also looking at local school board elections because we have the ability to influence those as well and advocate there. So a lot of really exciting things going on here. There's a great appetite among everyday voters and neighbors here in New Mexico who understand these policies, are hungry for these policies, and see what is really possible when we have more women in these elected positions.
Thank you so much. I love those stats on the different Las Cruces, and we're going to go into this more, but thank you for giving a preview. I will jump to Anna Kellar for Bring the Vote Now, and I got to know Anna when they were working in Maine at Democracy Maine, I believe, and doing fabulous work. So I will let you go ahead and chat about what you're currently working on. If you want to tap into any of the previous incredible work you've done in Maine, feel free to open up the floor to that as well.
Yeah, hi everyone. I am Anna Kellar. I use they, them pronouns. I am the National Organizing Director now for Rank the Vote, and I'm usually based in Portland, Maine, though I am spending 3 months in Switzerland this winter, which is why it is dark around me. But I spent about 10 years working on ranked choice voting at the state and the local level in Maine, along with a whole suite of other democracy reforms. Democracy Maine is one half League of Women Voters of Maine. And so the overlap of these movement spaces is a really familiar and great space to be in. I will say Maine right now is having an exciting legislative session because there is still an opportunity to expand ranked choice voting to all the state offices before the 2026 election, which would be a huge deal if we could finally get that work done. It has been blocked by state Supreme Court, and we think there's a way to get around that in the coming year. And that would be fantastic because it is already an open seat race for governor where there's already candidates from highly contested primaries and then also a strong independent running. So there's a strong case for it there as well. So hoping from, representing the Maine side of things that there will be that state legislative victory this session. But the work that I get to do now with really so many of you and all of my co-panelists here is supporting the work that's happening in the states and cities. We just counted, there are 110 state and municipal campaigns that we are currently tracking as actively built either in a build phase or in a win phase, which means that they are seriously considering or already in a place of lobbying or heading toward the ballot. Some of those are going to take longer. Some of them are going to have bumps. We think, maybe we'll get 10 or 12 of them this year that might actually get over the finish line, but only 10 or 12 would a few years ago have seemed like that would have been a huge number. And so I think what I'm privileged to get to see right now is just the diversity and the real strength of this movement. And what we do at Rank the Vote is try to provide those tools and peer support and coaching and just the environment that allows all of the leaders, whether they come from a professional background in organizing or they're coming into this and trying to learn as they go, that everyone has the tools that they need to succeed in all of these exciting campaigns around the country.
That is incredible. Those are a lot of places, so many campaigns. And if you want to share any information to the chat as well on how we can find out about these campaigns that are going to be pushed forth, please let us know. Again, we really want to help support, and I know we've got a great group of people that are eager to help support as well. So feel free to share that.
Absolutely.
And last but not least, Tamaya Dennard from my Represent Women, my fabulous colleague. So I will let you also just share what you're working on, since I know there's been a lot happening with your work recently.
Awesome. So thank you all for joining us today to just say that you could be anywhere in the world, but you choose to be here with us, and we appreciate that. So I have the absolute honor of serving as the Programs and Partnerships Manager here at Represent Women. And that means a lot to me because throughout my career, I've always had a passion for underserved people and underrepresented people. So this is an opportunity to continue to do I work at a great organization. So what makes me passionate about what I do is knowing that, if you just say, more women or in gender expansive people should be elected to office, but you don't provide the tools and the reform to make that possible, that's a moot conversation. But here at Represent Women and even within the broader RCV movement, it's about how do we make sure that systems are in place to give people, candidates, an opportunity to win, and not just win, but win, lead, and serve. That's really run, win, lead, and serve is something that we are extremely passionate about at Represent Women. So RCV is a data-backed, reform that we know, as evidenced by all the folks that came before me in Alana's slides, that we know that more women and gender expansive people, and even a step further, women of color, Black women, are elected in systems such as these. I think sometimes we take for granted how young our democracy is and that it's growing and evolving. So an opportunity to understand that what we already have hasn't worked, and to try to create a more perfect union, which seems a little bit strange in our day and age because we're in this work and we see the gains and the wins every day in the backdrop of a democracy that's kind of fallen apart. So this work that we do, and I think Alana, you and I are talking about this the other day, it gives me hope every day that that gains are happening, and the work that we're doing at Represent Women, it excites me every day, and I'm so blessed to open up my computer and every day and to have a job that excites me. So we get to work with partners across the country. I am located in God's country, but I get a chance to work. I'm sorry, let me make that clear if you don't know. Cincinnati, Ohio is God's country. Most of you probably knew that, but I was like, let me make sure I'm clear. But I get to work across the country with amazing leaders, those who are on this panel, and many of you, as I look at who's participating in this call, I get to learn, what you're doing and how at Represent Women we can come alongside you and help you with this work. And that's the best thing about our work. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, and we get to provide data. We don't gatekeep our data. We come alongside you and help you further our shared passion for representation. So I'm happy to be with you all today, and I can't wait to learn more and talk with you and interact with all of you.
Well, thank you, Tamaya. And Tamaya is doing so many wonderful projects and such important work. It's such an honor to work with her as her teammate. And I can see the chat is very much filling up with a lot of Seattle excitement and comments. Elise, do you want to talk a little bit about, go a little deeper into Seattle and what's going on? Because that's a really critical new change, implementations next year. And now you're on the front line. So happy to let you have a minute to dive in a little more. Oop, I think you may, although Elise might be a little frozen. So if that is the case, we can jump. All right, Elise, I will come back to you about Seattle in just a second. But I'm
happy to. I'm sorry if there's a little bit of a delay.
Oh, you're good. Go for it.
Okay, great. My Wi-Fi is struggling a little today, but I'm really happy to talk about Seattle because it is going to be the only jurisdiction in Washington using RCV once we implement next year. And of course, it's also the largest and most well-known city in the state. And we are going to be ranking in our August primary and then headed to a up to general election. So right now we are focused on making sure this is a successful election on several fronts. We're working closely with King County Elections, who will be administering, to make sure they have all the tools they need from a lot of our fabulous partners nationwide to do this well and do this right. And we are also working with the city and the county to make sure that voters know about this upcoming change, know how to rank a ballot, and know how to interpret the results. Because that's what we've seen from other jurisdictions, like Portland, just nearby. There was a lot of great work between the city, the county, and community groups to ensure that that story was being told throughout the whole election process. Now, in Seattle, we actually had elections last year for a few city positions, and some pretty amazing women were elected who actually had the FairVote Washington endorsement. So that makes us really excited about what we're going to be able to do in terms of making sure that the city is really paying attention to this and looking for any opportunity they have to put ranked choice voting before the voters. Like Portland is using RCV to name a snowplow this year. We should be doing the same thing to drum up that excitement. And we also are working with the city to find ways to support the community organizations who are going to be talking with voters and making sure that there's a high uptake of ranked choice voting across the city. You know, we campaigned on this issue, promising that we would have more candidates, and a better campaigning process. So that is what we are going to make sure happens in the next year and a half.
Oh, I'm so excited for you. I can't wait to follow along and see how everything goes. And I know you're doing incredible work and it's going to go off smoothly without a hitch. I'm putting that out there, manifesting it. But as we were talking about, really getting community buy-in is so important. And so opening this up to the floor, when you're talking with community members about ranked choice voting, I'd love to hear back from you all, whoever wants to go, with what do you most often hear back from them? What seems to resonate the most when you're talking to women voters and community members? What do they like to hear? I think that would be really great for us all to get the knowledge of.
Well, I'll jump in. I think it's pretty clear that people find it easy, even if they don't necessarily like it or they don't totally trust it. We commissioned, along with our partners at Common Cause New Mexico, some polling in Santa Fe and Las Cruces after this most recent election. And about 60% of people said they really liked it, but almost 80% of people said it was easy to understand. And at almost 90%, people said they really love that it ensures that a majority winner always gets elected. That is a really important kind of like underlying foundation of why RCV works for people. When you actually talk to people, I think you hear the same. They think it's easy, they like it. I think it's a little bit more novel. And I think one of the things we hear, or I've heard from voters is, there's so much emphasis on the importance of voting as how we uphold our democracy, but a lot of people don't really feel like that is what matters anymore. But it feels more powerful. It feels like you have more say. And so it feels like it brings that power back into an individual voter's hands. And I think that's why they enjoy using it.
That's a great insight, Perry. Thank you so much for sharing it. And this data does not lie. People like it. They find it simple. That's important for us to keep reiterating. Anyone else want to share just about what's resonated with people you've worked with or talked to? If not, we can move on to other. Tamaya, did you?
Yeah, I was going to say what you just said, the data doesn't lie. When I'm talking with people about ranked choice voting, they obviously know what we have isn't working. And I think people want to try something new. They don't see themselves in government in more ways than one. So when you point to the evidence that all of you discussed within certain jurisdictions and states and the data that we have at Represent Women, there's a clear thirst that the government that we have isn't functioning and they want to try something different.
Yeah, Tamara, do you want to expand a little bit too on the campaign culture and how coalition building changes, or anyone else on the call who wants to take that? I just think it's a critical piece of the story.
I think it is a critical piece, and I appreciate you bringing that up, especially as it relates to, I would say, Black women and even how political parties get to pick and choose winners and not people, depending on the demographic of your city or your municipality or your state. The political parties are able to, once they put forth the candidates that they choose, then it's up to folks to choose candidates that they choose. But it really gives the political parties less power, and there's a less steep hill to viability for women candidates and candidates of color. So the ranked choice voting it's even before you get to the actual election itself, the campaign process that RCV it just sharpens it. It makes it better. It makes it easier. It makes it less challenging for candidates who don't necessarily have the name recognition or the exposure or dealing with the misogyny and intersectionality of dealing with the racism and or the sexism. So in terms of campaign culture, RCV does change the political climate quite a bit.
And
Yes.
if I can add to that, another portion of my role is to do coalition building as well. And so it's been really, I would say, interesting for me to have to build the connection between certain subject matter with ranked choice voting and how ranked choice voting benefits or uplifts. So, for example, we're part of the Right to Vote Coalition. Virginia was the only state left that the governor had to give the rights back to people who were justice impacted. And so we just passed the constitutional amendment, and now it's going to the ballot. But we had the privilege of being a part of that coalition of people to talk about how proportional representation also will benefit people who were justice impacted. And like, obviously parties, have their own arguments about who those individuals are going to vote for. But one of the things that we're able to do is say, like, this is a democracy. This is going to impact people of color, women of color, of course. But I just wanted to add on to like the campaign and to the coalition building, because the bridges that you build with proportional representation to the vast majority of things and how we elect people and how that's so important to uplift a lot of the issues that we care about, it's actually really beautiful. So
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'll
Go
add a
ahead.
couple more thoughts. Campaigning should really be an indicator of how a candidate will govern. In a perfect democracy, voters would be learning what that person would be like in office. But while governing is all about reaching compromises and getting things done, campaigning in a choose one system is more about mudslinging and highlighting divides. You can win a campaign without talking about yourself much if you just drive the other person down and likely reduce voter turnout while you do it. And that's not useful for voters. It doesn't give us good information, and it doesn't make people feel excited to be part of the process. So I can contrast what we see in ranked choice voting jurisdictions with Washington elections, where until next year, they're all choose one. Because here, even candidates who are fed up with our current system, who understand the problems and look to solutions like ranked choice voting, they still feel forced to campaign in that old playbook, and they feel like their hands are tied. And of course, voters are just put off by the whole process. So I feel like it's not working for anyone, what we're doing right now, and we need to change the incentives so that campaigning is more similar to governing.
Yes, that is
Yeah,
such a
thank you.
critical point. The incentives are key. And Anna, you want to hop in?
Yeah, just gonna add that I think you can't underestimate the way that ranked choice voting changes the wait your turn dynamic. This is something that we've seen in action multiple times in the city council and school board in Portland, my home city, and Portland, Maine. And it's been really dramatic. And I think about the difference that would have made for me when I tried to run as a 26-year-old in a crowded primary, and how people treated me versus how I've seen when you have young people running who are coming from underrepresented backgrounds, there's not this, oh, we can only have one. There's going to be one person who represents all of the marginalized voices. And therefore, if there's someone who, it's like, if there is a woman running, you can't have a gay person running. If there's it just kept being these sort of arguments no, you're going to split the vote. And it changes the dynamics so much once you have that ability. And I think about this as well as a non-binary trans person, that my share of the demographic is, very tiny. We're not going to win based on, just getting people like us into office. But it means that the ability to make coalitions and to be able to say, here's what, where you might disagree with me, but this is where we have things in common, that becomes so important. And I think ranked choice voting emphasizes that ability as well. So I think that there's, it's both the women who should be at the majority, because women are the majority of the country, and also how you have representation for minority voices as well.
Yes, thank you for uplifting that. That is just such a critical point to add. And I actually had a question come in a second ago regarding how ranked choice voting also perhaps changes or impacts campaign finance. Does it reduce the overall cost of elections? Is it neutral? Hoping somebody here might be able to give their insights first. If not, I can take it, but I'll pass it to this very intelligent, well-equipped team to see whoever wants to jump in.
I kind of want to jump right in on that because I ran simultaneous campaigns for ranked choice voting and for public campaign financing in Portland, Maine, because we saw those two things as being really well tied together. And I think that what Perry mentioned about the importance of the bill for paying legislators is another piece of this as well. It's all about having good qualified people be able to run and serve, and then to not be beholden to anybody other than the people that puts them into office. And those are such well tied together things. Sometimes we hear, oh, but ranked choice voting, there'll be more candidates that will be running, and therefore the cost of elections will go up. We have not seen that happen dramatically in terms of like, you don't have hundreds of people running suddenly. You have a good number of people running. And what you don't tend to have as much is the one-upmanship of the campaigns where you have everything depends on which one of two people is going to win and take over everything. And so therefore the incentives to have huge amounts of money coming in are huge. With ranked choice voting, it reduces that a bit. I'm not saying it, ranked choice voting is a silver bullet for all of our campaign finance problems, but I think that solutions in these two spaces can be dovetailed together, and that voters really get how there can be a complete picture of democracy reform.
And I'll just
Go ahead, Elise.
Yeah, if I could just add in one thing, because I think I agree with all that. I also, my controversial opinion is I don't think more money, the amount of money spent total on campaigns is the issue. It's really about where's that money coming from and who's it going to. So if we have more candidates, then I'm okay with more money being spent, because I think ranked choice voting is more likely to have voters believe that that underdog or third-party candidate has a good chance of winning and is worth some of their money. I bet a lot of us here have worked on campaigns. We know that campaign staff are not paid enough. There's not enough resources to go around to get their message out, which is the core of campaigning. It's about educating voters. And so if there is more money spent, that's fine. There's not data to back that up. But ranked choice voting, it also is being tried out in jurisdictions like Maine and Washington, D.C. and Seattle that have robust campaign financing and public financing programs. And together, those reforms really work to make sure voters feel like their voices are being heard and make a difference. And these candidates who don't have the support of institutions like the traditional parties do have a legitimate chance of getting elected and having their ideas heard.
So when we talk specifically about campaign finance relative to women candidates, I'll say that to your point, Anna, I think we work on something at Represent Women, or we recognize something that we call the twin track. So there's RCV, but then RCV in conjunction with something else. So in New York City, it was with the public campaign, component. In Portland, Oregon, it was kind of like the capping of campaign contributions, and that is really important because when we look at data relative to women candidates, especially Black women candidates, on the smaller, what we call like hustle dollars, and I'm speaking from also as someone who successfully run for office, like there's like the hustle dollars, the smaller donations. Black women are like toe for toe with the hustle dollars, the smaller campaigns. What creates the gap and where the separation is with the access to larger donors, whether it be women in general and Black women specifically. So ranked choice voting in conjunction with public finance or capping of finance is really important because women, specifically younger women and women of color, don't have access to the same amount of donors. They don't have the same networks that other people do. And so that is another way that RCV helps to, I'm not sure if I don't know how I feel about the term level in the playing field, but I'll say that for lack of a better term, in terms of like trying to make campaigns, elections accessible to everyone. So we're not saying RCV is the end all be all, but when used in conjunction with something that's particularly around finance, that's when you see the emergence of women of color, younger women, queer people. You see that kind of bridges the divide quite a bit. So yes, I agree that there is definitely a financial component in conjunction with RCV as it relates to getting more women and gender expansive people elected.
Thank you, Tamaya, for adding that. And we do have a public financing section on our website as well on how Represent Women looks at this with a lot of different research cases and data. So if you want to check that out, please feel free to do so. We can add those links as well in our chat. And apologies, I was just trying to, I know we have lost Tamara for a second there, but she's back. Wi-Fi issues, they happen. So she will be joining our queue again for what likely will be our final question, as we are getting pretty close to the top of the hour, and I don't want us to run over too long. Trying to keep it promptly at 1 to end, or 2. I'm in Denver, so noon for me. But my last question here is, we are playing the long game, all of us. These reforms don't happen overnight. We're making great progress, but we have quite a bit of a ways to still go. And so my question to you all is, what is keeping you personally invested in advancing ranked choice voting? Was there a moment or experience that's really solidified this work for you? And if there is time, if you want to just share, as we look ahead, we're at the beginning of 2026, what gives you the most hope about the future of ranked choice voting and women's political leadership? So I'll let you take that however you would like to.
Despite what some pundits say, ranked choice voting is easy to understand and it's exciting to people, the everyday voters out there. And I think anything that makes people excited to participate in democracy is going to be a big win for us. The participation, the engagement, we're really seeing that fall off in a lot of places because people don't believe in the system anymore. Why don't they believe in it? Their elected officials are not representative. They're not getting anything done. They're not answering to the will of the people. So to me, this feels like a great opportunity. And I get the positive uplift of more people are in this and owning kind of that civic duty and feeling like it matters. They can actually have power with that civic duty. That's a win for all of us. And I think that also speaks to how we're going to continue building power in our movement, and organizing, because, just this talk about public financing, there's so much we can do to make our elections work better and make our government work better. It's uplifting in the spite of, all the horrors.
It is uplifting and it is very hopeful. And it's great to see, as Cynthia mentioned, a lot of young people, young women are so in support of ranked choice voting, but we just need more of them in power. And that's why having groups like today just really energizes me about what is to come. Anyone else like to share any final thoughts on what you're thinking?
I'll go. I think coupled with what Perry said, but also having the elder generation and like people who we look up to support young people in this work has been made me a little bit more hopeful. Um, I think with any new movements or anything that brings change, there's like more, it's stressful. Let's just be frank about it. It's very stressful and it's so hard being a revolutionary in your generation where everyone's hopeless and very apathetic to the system. So when you have people who are like, no, I was there before, that's the reason why we're here now where we are as the elder generation, and it takes the next generation to do the work. That makes me a lot more hopeful to know, like, we say history repeats itself, but it really does. And like the struggles that we see, even when we do the work we do, someone else already went through it. So being able to talk to our mentors and talk to people who've done hard work definitely helps me do this work. So especially my senior Black officials here in Virginia, they had to fight. So we're just gonna have to fight. So.
I'll say ranked choice voting is growing across the country. And as our movement racks up more wins and more jurisdictions come online with ranked choice ballots, all of that helps to combat the misinformation that's being pushed about our reforms. I've talked a lot about we're about to be ranking in Seattle, and I'm not only looking forward to what that will mean for Seattle voters and Seattle politics, but also how that will spread awareness throughout the state to demystify ranked choice voting and have it move from that theoretical space to something that is being used successfully here in Washington. And the same goes as other organizations are helping to grow this movement across the country. Really, as more people hear about RCV, understand RCV, and decide they want it in their communities, that's the path we're on, and that's what gives me hope.
Well, thank you.
I want to lift up the people who are doing this work in red states, in places that feel, places that don't have ballot referendums, in places that have had entrenched political power for a really long time, and are having to be so creative and resourceful and do such good organizing work to try to think how do we change those power dynamics? And that is like big mountain lifting work that is happening in every corner of the country. And I'm thinking about the folks in Ohio, because right now there are 5 cities in Ohio that have like committed people working on like actually realistic pathways toward passage, despite a looming ban bill that is like hanging over them. So, and that's just one example, but that's something that, I didn't necessarily know was out there until I started spending more time talking to those folks. And I find that, such a great partnership along with the people who are doing this work like, in the places, not that it's ever easy, no matter you think you're in the bluest city and you're still going to have to fight, whatever battle you're going to have to fight. We all have those pathways, but I think it's been really cool to see how people are creative under really tough circumstances. I find that very inspiring.
Yes, that is such a good point. And we are trying to focus a little bit more on those Republican states to really see how we can help in those areas that are pushing back, because there are people who are pushing forward, and how can we help be able to back them and really give them whatever support that they need. So thank you for bringing up that point. So we are at 1 minute. So any other final last words? I'm sad that this hour has gone by so fast and we're going to need to cut it to a close, but I'm sure we'll have other conversations throughout this year. We'd love to have you all back for maybe an update webinar at some point later on for different statuses of things that are happening. But any final remarks from anyone that you're burning to say before we all jump?
I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. This means a lot as we continue to learn more about ranked choice voting and what it means, and more importantly, its implications for true representation.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for our panelists, for everyone who jumped in to join, for anyone who voted in our ranked choice voting poll. We'll have more of those going out, so feel free to share. And then I just have our little Visionary Women's Planner, in front of me, that we put out every year. And I just wanted to end with a uplifting quote from our favorite Broadway musical, Suffs. And it says, "Yes, the world can be changed. We've done it before. So keep marching on, keep marching. We're always behind you, so bang down the door and keep marching on, keep marching. And let history sound the alarm of how. The future demands that we fight for it now. It will be ours if we keep marching on, keep marching on." So for all of us today, thank you for joining us, and together let us keep marching on and celebrating RCV Day tomorrow. I know Rank the Vote has a lot going on, so please go over to their websites as well as all of our partners to see what they're doing. And we look forward to connecting with you all again soon.